Money Talk.
This is Akashvani. In the program Money Talk, now we bring you a discussion on India's march towards energy security. The participants are Narendra Taneja, energy expert, and Rituraj Baruah, journalist.
Good evening. So here we are, we'll talk about energy security and India's efforts on those lines to become energy independent and secured. We have with us well-known energy expert, Mr. Narendra Taneja ji. Good evening, Mr. Taneja.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
We will largely talk about the energy security situation and the ambitious goals India has in these lines. India's energy demand has been growing in record momentum every year. How do you see India's efforts to achieve energy security across energy sources, ranging from conventional to new age technologies, including renewable and nuclear?
Well, as we all know that India is today the fastest growing large economy in the world. And we are home to 1.4 billion people and economy growing, at a very fast pace. So therefore, the entire world is looking at India today for investment, to collaborate and to partner wherever they can. And as we know that if we want to sustain this growth or take it even further to maybe 8% and 9% per annum, what we need most and above all is energy. And today the status is that, we are energy deficit like many other countries in the world. And the efforts, therefore, is to go for energy self-reliance, as the Prime Minister said from the Red Fort on the 15th of August, to go for self-reliance so that we can bring down our dependence on imports for oil or gas or uranium or equipment and so on and so forth, and as soon as possible. So overall objective is to work for energy independence by 2047 as part of the Viksit Bharat agenda. But when we look around, especially when it comes to conventional energy, as you mentioned, we import roughly 88% of our total requirement of oil from 40 different countries. And we also import 56% of our requirement of natural gas from multiple places. When it comes to renewable energy, we are still heavily dependent on imports for solar panels and cells and other things, mainly from China, but also from other countries. And also to some extent, we are dependent on uranium on other countries as we import a chunk of our requirement. Coal also we import roughly about 5 to 10% per annum of our total requirement. But that is mainly because, we have got some highly specialized power plants which require that kind of coal. Otherwise, we are quite self-sufficient when it comes to coal. So therefore, the government agenda is to make sure that we continue to grow at this pace or even faster, and at the same time mobilize a sufficient amount of energy of our own so that we become energy self-reliant as possible. In terms of oil and gas, as you may recall from the Red Fort on the 15th of August, Prime Minister announced a national deep water mission. So National Deep Water Mission is basically to explore our oceans, Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean, to explore, go deep into the water and try to see that if we can find some oil and gas there. As you know that we are already part of the exclusive deep water club, in the sense we are exploring and producing oil and gas from the deep water in the Bay of Bengal. We are already doing that. Idea is now to expand it so that we can bring down our dependence on imports. The same way when it comes to renewable energy, particularly solar, the government is investing aggressively, has come out with very highly specialized policy so that we can not only reduce our dependence on imports for panels and cells and so on and so forth, but actually over a period of time become a major exporter. So as part of that, 2 gigafactories are coming up actually in the state of Gujarat for manufacturing solar panels and cells and other equipment that's required for that. The same goes for natural gas. Our companies have gone abroad, ONGC Videsh and a few others, and they have acquired gas assets in different parts of the world. The recent one being in Mozambique, so that we can produce gas there and then bring that for domestic consumers. So overall efforts are really, on the one hand, to make sure the sufficient affordable energy is available to every single Indian for household consumption or for industrial consumption, and at the same time, as part of the energy security doctrine of the government, that we can reduce our dependence on imports to the extent possible and as far as possible.
I would like to understand, how would you define green or renewable energy?
Well, when it comes to renewable energy or green energy or alternative sources of energy, is basically, when you look at the conventional energy, is oil, gas, and coal. I mean, these three sources of energy, which are still roughly 80% of our total requirement. And not only India, but globally, if you look at it, 80% energy still comes from fossil fuels. That's oil, gas, and coal. But at the same time, these are very important source of energy, but they contaminate. Even if you use the best available technology, like even if you're using the most eco-friendly car, you are still polluting. Even if you're using CNG, you are still polluting. So these are conventional energies are very important source, very powerful source. The world economy depends on the conventional energy. But at the same time, we know the price that we have to pay in terms of, emissions, carbon emissions and pollution and contamination of air, water, earth. The new direction of the focus is to go for renewable energy or green energy, which means an energy which basically can be renewed, or energy which is actually not contaminating, not polluting. So here we talk about wind energy, we talk about solar energy, we talk about hydrogen, we also talk about nuclear power. So these are the sources of energy which, broadly speaking, do not contaminate air, water, or earth. So in short, do not contaminate climate. So therefore, India's focus is a lot on this for two reasons. Number one, we are a signatory to the Paris climate deal. And the second reason is that, that's more important, that we are a densely populated country. We have large cities with millions of people living there. So as part of the government efforts to make sure that every Indian has access to clean air, clean water, and clean rivers, and clean mountains, and clean forests, and clean cities and villages, effort is to invest as much as possible in the renewable energy. And if you look at, for instance, overall success that we have achieved, particularly the last 7 or 8 years in terms of solar power, or for that matter, hydro or wind power, we have set kind of world record. Today, if you look at the overall power generation, electricity generation, close to 48% electricity is now being generated by renewable energy. So that means we generate electricity. But unlike that, you see, when you use coal for producing electricity, we're using renewable energy. So I think, we have done tremendously well, and our success is unprecedented, not only in the whole world, but particularly when it comes to the global south. And we are collaborating heavily with the global south countries in terms of International Solar Alliance, and there are certain other platforms too where we are collaborating.
Right.
So that's, roughly speaking, that's what green energy is all about.
Right. Talking about the dependence in the solar and renewable energy space, India has tried to develop its own module and cell manufacturing capacities. How do you see we're becoming independent in terms of these new age technologies and equipment?
Now the focus basically is in two directions. Number one, that we go for our own research and development. So there is a huge focus on the part of the government in terms of incentives to attract more investment in renewable energy research and development. So you have many startups which have come up, and at the same time, the conventional energy companies, including companies like NTPC or Indian Oil, are being encouraged to go for more research and development. And you can already see such research and development centers across the country. Closer to Delhi, you can see Indian Oils in Faridabad, for instance, where they are working on hydrogen-driven buses and cars. Similarly, as you rightly mentioned, that idea is to build our own capacity for manufacturing cells and panels and other requirement that you need for solar power onshore and also offshore solar power. Offshore solar power is basically setting up solar power plants on the sea. These are floating ones. In some places, they are not going to be floating ones. They are more fixed. So the government has come out with a new policy on that, and it's already attracting a lot of attention particularly from foreign investors and foreign players and foreign solar power companies. So the whole idea is to move in that direction. And now with setting up of 2 gigafactories, there are 2 more gigafactories are likely to come up. And then there are smaller factories which are coming up in this space.
How do you see the expansion in terms of electric mobility? You already have spoken about how even new age vehicles like CNG, even they are pollutant to some extent. EVs would play a major role there. So Prime Minister has already spoken about India's export capabilities in EVs.
ईवी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को मजबूती देने के लिए ये जरूरी था भारत बैटरीज का भी निर्माण करे। इसी विजन को लेकर 2017 में हमने यहाँ TDSG बैटरी प्लांट की नींव रखी थी। TDSG की ही नई पहल पर इस फैक्ट्री में 3 जापानी कंपनियां मिलकर भारत में पहली बार सेल मैन्युफैक्चर करेगी। भारत में बैटरी सेल के इलेक्ट्रोड भी लोकल लेवल पर तैयार होंगे। ये लोकलाइजेशन भारत की आत्मनिर्भरता को नई शक्ति देगा।
What is your view in terms of EV penetration in India's overall automobile market?
Well, if you look at the overall automobile market, if you go the conventional automobiles in terms of cars and trucks and buses and all that, India is a leader. I mean, you travel to Africa, you travel to Latin America, you travel to Southern Europe, you travel to many other parts of the world, and you can see India made cars and buses and motor vehicles and heavy duty vehicles and so on and so forth. So the whole idea now is to actually go for the kind of shift in a gradual manner, because some markets still may require the conventional vehicles, but to go for that shift, because now electric vehicles, which are started playing much bigger role globally in the automobile market. So idea is also to kind of go aggressively in that direction so that we continue to be a leader in the world automobile market. That's one. The second and important aspect at the same time is that, we are developing our own technology. We are developing our own models. When you look at electric vehicles by Tatas or by Mahindras, they are manufacturing electric vehicles which cost less than $10,000 in global markets, which is a kind of a big surprise by many. They say, how can you get an electric vehicle for less than $10,000? But that's what basically we have started manufacturing in India now. And as you rightly mentioned, now we are ready and we started exporting. So which is going to get a big traction. And let's not forget electric vehicle. When you look at the overall pollution in India, in urban areas in particular, 40% of the pollution actually is coming from motor vehicles. Petrol, diesel driven motor vehicles. So idea is that unless and until we go for electric vehicle revolution, we are moving in that direction. It would be very difficult to contain or control, pollution in the urban spaces and the big cities. So that's why government is aggressively promoting electric vehicles and with maximum possible incentives to both manufacturers and also to the end users. So I think its overall strategy is on the one hand to make our cities more livable, air cleaner, and at the same time, since the entire world is going in the direction of electric vehicles, to encourage our car manufacturers, our automobile manufacturers to continue to be a leader, continue to be a big supplier of cars, electric vehicles in particular, to the world.
Right. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today flagged off Made in India battery electric vehicles from Hansalpur in Gujarat, which has a potential to export vehicles to over 100 countries across the globe. And in another major development in terms of self-reliance and clean energy, the Prime Minister also launched the next phase of India's battery ecosystem with a local production at Hansalpur-based plant. Taneja ji, your views in terms of India's track record and the efforts going ahead in terms of lithium-ion batteries?
As you can see that if you have to acquire self-reliance in terms of electric vehicles, there are two things we got to do. Number one is that if you're using electricity produced by coal for electric vehicle, then the purpose in a way is defeated. So it's important the electricity we use is also being produced using renewables to the extent possible or green sources to the possible. Number two is the lithium batteries and the batteries as a whole. So there again, more R&D is required, more manufacturing capability is required. But as you mentioned, that we have already made a good progress in that direction. But lithium batteries or batteries overall for use in the electric vehicles or bigger electric trucks and medium-sized passenger vehicles, etc. I think we are in the right direction, but we need to invest more. We need to also reduce our dependence on whatever we still need in terms of manufacturing a battery. So therefore, the focus is on R&D. The focus is also on finding the material that we need to manufacture batteries wherever possible within the country, but wherever possible, sourcing it from the friendly countries. So I think overall progress, if you look at it, is very, very encouraging. And it's being already noticed not only by countries in our part of the world, by practically all countries, particularly in the global south.
Thank you, Mr. Taneja. It was great speaking to you on India's energy security. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on India's march towards energy security. The participants were Narendra Taneja, energy expert, and Rituraj Baruah, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani.
Money Talk.